During my time as a major crimes forensics detective, I worked about 20,000 crime scenes.
Today, Karen is going to break down fictional crime scene investigations to determine what Hollywood gets right and wrong.
What I want you to understand is that crime scenes are very difficult. There are infinite number of possibilities. So when we go into one, we have to go in with an open mind, with objective means, and we have to gather all of our evidence appropriately so that everything can go to court. First up, Dexter. In this scene, Dexter, a blood spatter analyst, investigates a crime scene.
Look at the blood spatter, look at the patterns. It tells a story. You see this big pond of blood right there? That's from the initial stab.
This is pure Hollywood. I don't know what a pond of blood is. A pond is what fish are in. A pond is not what blood is. We don't use a term like that. I don't know what all those red strings are either. When we reconstruct what's called an impact pattern, we can take up to 6 to 10 different small blood droplets and draw them into three-dimensional space. And that's apparently what they were trying to do with these red strings here, but not only is that ridiculous, it doesn't tell me anything about the crime scene whatsoever.
The male victim was standing right here, and the killer plunged his knife into the shoulder, severing the carotid artery, and notice the long, thick, heavy drips?
That stain on the wall is not like anything we would find at a crime scene. That looks like the prom scene from the movie Carrie. There's nothing that those strings are attached to on that wall that is meaningful at all. I also don't know how you would reconstruct a crime scene using a non-pattern like that and then deduce that the person came across with a knife this way and that way. Crime scene reconstruction is very detailed, it's very objective. So it's not just walking into a crime scene and then just positing what you think happened based on the patterns at the scene. You have to do a lot of legwork.
Now over here you have nice, clean sprays of blood, and that can only happen when you're holding something light and moving quick. Nice, sharp slices through the body, no splashes, no drips. Clean and easy.
Clean and easy. If I were to classify what Hollywood has attempted to recreate on that wall, it would be termed something along the lines of cast-off. And cast-off happens when blood adheres to an object and that object is swung through the air, and the adhesive properties of blood are overcome by that force, and they land in a linear arc on the available surfaces, and they can leave a line. And depending on the weapon used, the line can be very thin, such as with the tip of a knife, or they can be thicker, such as with a baseball bat or a tire iron. But again, these are things that take the scientific method. They take objective means to measure and to recreate. So this is just nonsense.
So we're looking for a sushi chef. Yeah, sushi chef is possible. Wouldn't be my first choice, but hey, you never know.
Now what?
Now I eat.
And last but not least, in this clip, nobody's wearing a Tyvek suit. Nobody's wearing shoe booties. Nobody is wearing gloves. He snaps one photograph and splits for dinner. Nothing about this scene has anything to do with reality. Overall, I think this is a Hollywood hot mess. It is a non-forensic nightmare, and I may have a nightmare tonight now that I've watched it. Next up, Fargo Season 2. In this scene, the local detectives investigate a crime scene at a local diner.
Put my coat on her. Seemed only right.
I put my coat on her seemed only right. No. That is only wrong. We never introduce evidence to a body, and she's not gonna get cold. I promise. So we've got some pretty major blood stains at the entrance there. That means we need to find an alternate entry point. We don't want to walk over those bloodstains because we could alter them. We could introduce our own shoe prints, our own DNA, other things into that crime scene. So as soon as that door was opened and the blood was present there on the floor, trying to find an alternate route would have been the appropriate thing to do.
I count 3 dead.
Saw the waitress in the parking lot?
I think she caught one there, then staggered out. Gunman followed, made things permanent.
Well, if the gunman followed according to this very, very rapid reconstruction, and you have snow outside, you should be able to find some shoe prints in that snow leading to the body where the waitress was, along with a bullet trajectory through her body or a penetrating injury into her body. That can place where the shooter was, where she was, and it may be able to give you some identifiable characteristics in those shoe prints.
How's Betsy?
You mean you didn't call her before you came over?
Well, yeah. Just being polite. Give you a chance to talk about your feelings, should you be so disposed.
She's good, yeah. Ordered this kid a recipe cards. Saw it on the TV. So now every night we eat delicacies of the world.
As much as I love this banter because it's just adorable, that doesn't happen at a crime scene. We keep things clinical, we keep things linear, we keep things objective. Swapping recipes is something that we do outside of work, outside of the crime scene. And as tempting as it might be, it's inappropriate.
Skid marks.
Yeah, I see them. Of course, connecting those, this deal here would be what we call jumping to a conclusion.
Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. But here's the thing. You can measure those skid marks. You can take samples of the rubber from those skid marks. You can find out a width of the undercarriage of the vehicle that created them, and maybe it'll lead you to a car.
Based on the number of bodies, I think we got one car too many in the parking lot.
Whoa! He just picked up that money with what appears to be possibly blood on it with his gloved hand, and it's a leather glove. It's not a new, clean latex glove. That is a huge no-no. When you take evidence from a crime scene like that, not only are you contaminating it with things that might be on your glove, he's reached into his pocket, he's held his pen, he's taken notes, he may have even pulled it off with his fingers at some point. So he's introducing all of that onto that dollar bill, and if that is blood on it, that is a major clue. So the first thing that we would have to do is document it, photograph it, test that substance on it to see if it's blood, and then package it appropriately for the laboratory. Next up, Iron Man 3. In this scene, Tony Stark uses some high-tech forensics to reconstruct a crime scene.
I've compiled a Mandarin database for you, sir. Drawn from SHIELD, FBI, and CIA intercepts. Initiating virtual crime scene reconstruction.
We do have tools that will reconstruct a crime scene in 3 dimensions. They're 3D scanners. They not only take a 360-degree view of the crime scene, they can do ceilings and the floors, so that when we upload it into a computer, we can actually tilt the entire scene and take measurements from one area to another that are extremely accurate. So although this is really futuristic and cool, it is not that far out of the realm of possibility.
The heat from the blast was in excess of 3,000 degrees Celsius. Any subjects within 12.5 yards were vaporized instantly.
No bomb parts found in a 3-mile radius of the Chinese theater.
No, sir.
We just heard that this explosive device created 3,000 degrees Celsius. Well, that would be equivalent to about 5,400 degrees Fahrenheit. To give you some comparison, the surface of the sun is 5,700 degrees. So that's some serious math. And if you have an incendiary device like that that goes off at that high of a temperature, I'm pretty sure that vaporized is the correct term, but there would be a very large blast radius, not just at 12.5 yards away. It would be a lot bigger.
Talk to me, Happy. What is a bomb, not a bomb?
When is a bomb not a bomb? Never. You need 4 things to make a bomb. You need an energy source, you need a method of containment, you need a method of initiation, and you need some material that will create an exothermic or heat reaction. Without one of those things, it won't work. Next up, CSI Miami. In this clip, a brand new investigator makes a horrible mistake in the lab.
Talk me through what you're doing.
Okay, this is the jacket worn by our suspect, Hector Rivera. We believe that he stabbed Gabriel Cervantes, so I'm gonna run what's called a luminol test.
Yeah, what's luminol?
Luminol is a compound that when it interacts with the iron and hemoglobin, it'll luminesce.
This is true. Luminol is a chemiluminescent compound, and when it comes into contact with the heme in blood, it will create a bluish-green glow.
Any way you can get that to be even brighter? Okay, I just want it to really pop on film.
Yeah, just give me a second.
Oh, yeah, that's the money shot.
No! No! The more you spray a liquid like that onto a surface, the more you're going to dilute the stain. That can make it extremely difficult for the DNA analyst to extract the white blood cells that are needed for a DNA analysis. So the fact that he's spraying this luminol on the sleeve and over and over and over again, he's diluting that sample.
My results are 0 zip. There's no DNA on the jacket.
I don't see how that's possible. The luminol gave a significant blood spatter. It was actually, more than significant.
You should have seen it glow. It was amazing.
Oh, I bet it was. Problem is, the more luminol you spray, the more you dilute the blood.
Exactly. There's another problem here. He said it was a stabbing and there was significant blood spatter. Luminol is used on crime scenes that have been cleaned up. We don't use it to find evidence where there's significant blood. It's unnecessary. We have other means and methods to do that. So not only did he spray luminol on a jacket that had significant blood on it that we could have found with other methods, he diluted it to the point that the DNA analyst wasn't able to extract enough for a sample.
Okay, all right, I get it. So what do we really got here?
Ryan, too much luminol. There's no DNA.
What do you mean?
If you want to get this guy, you're going to have to find some other way.
It is possible that there is no DNA left on the sweatshirt. It's a chemical, and anytime you introduce a chemical to DNA, there is a chance that some of the alleles or parts of the DNA could break down and degrade and make that sample not a full profile. Next up, Silence of the Lambs. In this clip, the investigators are inside of a small town autopsy suite looking at a body from Buffalo Bill.
Okay, Starling.
Bill.
The menthol under the nose is a nice Hollywood touch, but here's the problem with menthol. It's designed to open your nasal passages. So when you put that under your nose, you're trying to do it to not smell the decomposition. It's better to just deal with it because when you put that under your nose, it opens your nasal passages and makes the smell worse. And I may know this because of experience.
Star-shaped contact entrance wound over the sternum. Muzzle stamp at the top.
Wrongful death.
Wrongful death.
When you have a contact wound where a muzzle stamp, meaning the barrel of the gun is literally pressed against the skin, you are going to have a stellate or star-shaped entrance wound. So that description is spot on.
What else do you see, Starling?
Well, she's not local. Her ears are pierced 3 times, and there's a glitter nail polish. It looks like town to me. 2 of her fingernails are broken off, and there's dirt or grit under them.
Those are really great observations. And not only would we swab under those nails for that dirt or grit and then compare it to samples that we took from the primary crime scene where the body was found, we would also clip her nails off and then those would be tested for DNA. Another thing that I really appreciate about the scene is Jodie Foster's character coming to the realization that she is face to face with a victim of a heinous murder, and she plays it so well. You can see it in her face. You can see that she's a little nauseated. You can see that she's very, very upset, and that really does happen.
She's got something in her throat.
When a body comes out of the water, lots of times there's like leaves and things in the mouth.
What is that? Some kind of seed pod?
No, sir. That's a bug cocoon. There's no way that could get way down in there like that.
Unless somebody shoved it in there.
The one thing that I really liked about this scene was when they did pull that cocoon out of the throat, Jodie Foster fixated it with alcohol. When you have entomological samples, which are bug samples, you have to preserve them somehow. And alcohol is definitely one of the preservation methods that we use. Next up, No Country for Old Men. In this scene, local sheriffs investigate a crime scene on horseback.
It's the same tire tread coming back as going, made about the same time, too. You can see the sights real clear.
When we have tire tracks and shoe prints and a scene like this that's in the middle of nowhere, it's very difficult. However, if you can see tire tracks that are leading to a crime scene that you're headed to, riding a horse over top of those tire tracks isn't going to do anybody any favors. We have to photograph them, we would have to cast them with some kind of material and recover them so that if we find a matching tire on a suspect vehicle, the analyst at the lab can do comparisons.
What calibers you got there, Sheriff?
9mm. A couple 45 ACPs. Somebody unloaded on that thing with a shotgun.
The fact that he picked the casings up with his bare hands is not good. Now there's no need to do DNA swabs. There's no need to process those casings for latent prints. We haven't documented their location to find out where the shooter may have been standing when they exited the kind of gun that he was firing. Also, you have 9mm and 45s. That could be one suspect with one gun in each hand. It could be a suspect with the 9, a suspect with the 45, and then you have another person with a shotgun. So were there 2 shooters or were there 3? We will never know, because all of that evidence has now been manipulated and moved before it was documented.
How come you reckon the coyote ain't been at him?
I don't know.
This is Hollywood gone awry. This is what happens when you don't pay attention to small things like opening doors without thinking. There looks to be a victim in the driver's seat of that car with a bullet wound to the back of their head. That might be important. You have the other guy on horseback kicking dirt onto the bodies on the ground. So this is just Hollywood taking a lot of really bad liberties.
That Mexican brown dope.
Oh, these boys is all swole up.
Never, never touch evidence with your bare hand, especially narcotics. One of the ways that drugs get into your system is through absorption in your skin. Another way is through inhalation through the air. So not only did he touch it with his bare hands, he flipped it into the air and now he's inhaling those particles into his lungs. So it's really important that any evidence that's at a scene, you leave it the way that it is, you document it with photography, and then you use very tightly gloved hands and you take that sample and you place it into a sealed envelope for the toxicologist. Next up, body of proof. In this clip, a medical examiner tries to determine the cause and manner of death at an autopsy.
Well, she's obviously in excellent physical condition. Calluses on her feet, a few minor scars. Healed bite marks on the left forearm, both posterior and anterior, probably canine.
That was a quick conclusion. Skin is notorious for moving, for being pliable. So when you have bite marks on skin, it's not that easy to make a determination, and you never ever get a perfect impression, even from a canine or a human. So a forensic odontologist would need to be consulted to look at those bite marks and to see if there's anything to glean from them.
Keeps her nails clipped, a little bit chewed.
Any DNA under them?
All in good time, detective.
This is the kind of contentious relationship that will not work. I've said before, this is a team effort, and being this contentious with the medical examiner is inappropriate. She has a job to do, the detectives have a job to do. We have to work in concert for the victim so that we can find the answers.
I see a beautiful young woman who ate well and kept fit. For whom? A boyfriend? Did she break up with him? Look deeper. She shows signs of stress, a workaholic. Was she up for partner? Did she piss somebody off? Was somebody jealous, out to get her? The answers are all here, because that's what we do. I honor the body for what it tells me about Angela Swanson's life.
Okay, we have a lot of lane crossing going here. The medical examiner's job is to determine the cause and the manner of death. Their job is not to go into the victimology, into the background of that victim. That's the detective's job. They should have a lot of that information already, or they should be about to go find out about it. Did she have a bad breakup? Does she have enemies? Does she have some people who she may owe money to? Things like that, that's the detective's job.
I'm gonna get some coffee.
The skull collapsed into the occipital lobe in a V-shaped depression. There are flecks of rust throughout. Your murder weapon is heavy, maybe cast iron, square with a dull edge, possibly a large plumber's wrench or some kind of mallet. And detective?
Yeah?
I take mine with cream, no sugar.
I would really like to know how she knows all of that information when we haven't even seen the injury yet. When a body goes in for autopsy, one thing that the medical examiners have to do, especially if there's long hair like I have, is you have to shave their head, especially if there's injuries to that head. And when there's blunt force trauma, such as what she's describing with a large pipe or a large wrench, there will be some telltale signs on that scalp to help us identify what that tool might be, but we can't see it until we get rid of the hair. And we wouldn't be able to make conclusions about the actual item of evidence, what caused those injuries, until we did a lot more investigation. Last up, Boondock Saints. In this scene, an FBI agent uses eccentric methods to investigate a crime scene. The first thing about this clip that I actually liked was he put gloves on. So we always wear personal protective equipment. Gloves are a bare minimum, which is a good thing. The music? Not so much. It's hard to concentrate on a crime scene when you have music blaring in your ears. Also, the CD player. We don't bring extraneous things into a crime scene ever, because not only can that introduce trace evidence into a crime scene, it can also bring the crime scene onto your stuff. That's a big no-no. You don't eat, you don't drink, you don't smoke inside of a crime scene. Ever. It is inappropriate. What are you gonna do? You're gonna ditch the cigarette butt inside the crime scene, so now we don't know what might be evidence and what might not be. Plus, you're introducing things from the crime scene into your mouth. Crime scenes are not clean. Crime scenes are gross. This is an alley full of garbage. You don't want that stuff in your mouth. What I see wrong here is the body is the jurisdiction of the medical examiner or coroner. So FBI agents, investigators, we aren't allowed to touch or manipulate the body without a representative from the medical examiner or coroner present. I have no idea what he's doing. I don't know what he was putting on the hand. I honest to God don't even know what that is. Is it blood? Is it dye? This is a perfect example of Hollywood taking complete liberty with forensics, because that made no sense at all. So overall, it looks like Hollywood goes over the border most of the time, but sometimes they do get it right. Believe me, crime scenes are not this sexy. They are not this entertaining. So if you're liking what you see on television and film, just remember, it's Hollywood, it's not reality.